Hi guys, welcome back to Unfiltered. It means a lot that you are here, still listening, still showing up. So on today's episode, I want to talk about something we all throw around easily: healing. A word we use in passing, with us in conversations like it's light, like it's linear. We hear someone say they've been heartbroken, and a few months later they are smiling again, so we assume, oh, they healed. A friend or family member who once caused you deep pain finally says, I'm sorry, and suddenly everyone's looking at you like closure should arrive on demand, like forgiveness should be instant, like earth can be undone with a simple conversation. If this is what we think about healing, then are we really healing, or are we just running, hiding, distracting ourselves just enough to call it something else? So I'll speak for myself. There was someone, okay, I take that back. There is someone in my life, not a romantic relationship, who had deeply hurt me in the past. So I thought I had moved on, I told myself that I said all the right things, I've forgiven them, it doesn't matter anymore, I'm over it. But then I noticed I barely wanted to talk to them, and when I did, everything felt charged. You know, every conversation felt like walking on glass. I was constantly defensive, making almost conversations end in fights. And it took some quiet, painful introspection to realize I wasn't healed, I was just guided. I had placed that person at arm's length, not out of peace, but out of fear. I wasn't treating the wound, you know, I was tiptoeing around the trigger, and that is definitely not easy. That's avoidance dressed up in self preservation. Now, let me pause and say this: I'm not a therapist, I'm a psychologist, but I am someone who's been walking this healing journey just like many of you. And because I didn't have the language or clarity, I decided to do some research, ask questions, reflect and learn. So, if you're listening right now and you're in the thick of it, I want to hold your hand through this. I want to help make this journey a little lighter so you don't have to figure it all out alone, because healing can feel lonely, and sometimes all you need is for someone to say, hey, me too. And while I'm here talking to you from my own experience, I'll also say this: seeing a therapist doesn't make you feel weak. It means you are giving yourself permission to be helped by someone who is trained to walk with you through their stuff. And if therapy feels out of reach right now, then let this podcast be a soft place for you to land. I mean, we are figuring it out together. So, the whole concept of healing got me thinking, how do people really heal? And I was able to pinpoint it to two major ways. The first one is healing in solitude. This is a popular one, retreating, going silent, journaling, praying, meditating, locking in, just unplugging. And the good part of that is that you get to gain clarity, you know, you find your own voice again, and you realize what your triggers are without distraction, without noise. But the downside, it is easy to confuse isolation with healing. You start believing you're fine just because no one's around to poke the wound, and you confuse yourself that peace equals healing when sometimes it's just distance. And the second way people heal is healing with people, you know, this healing through connection, talking it out, sharing your pain, basically just letting someone else in, you know. And the good part of that is that sometimes people mirror things to us that we can't see alone. They challenge us, they help us grow. So we feel seen and feel supported. But here's the risk here. You might use people as a distraction, because you keep talking, keep hanging out, keep laughing, just so you don't feel the ache. And you tend to skip the self work and lean too much on the noise. Now, here's the thing. I've tried both. I've done the solitude healing thing, I pulled back, stayed in my bubble, stopped talking. But the truth is, I wasn't being intentional with the healing process. I wasn't really processing anything. I was just the runner. So when the trigger came, boom, everything I had tucked away came crashing down. And just like that, the circle would restart again and again. And I tried dealing with people, staying connected, talking to friends, surrounding myself with good vibes. But if I'm being honest, I used it as a way to distract myself because the moment I go back in my room, locked the door, and it was just me and my thoughts, everything hits me at once. Like I didn't make any progress at all. It felt like I was doing the motions but not actually moving. That's when I realized maybe the answer isn't choosing one or the other. Maybe real healing lives somewhere in the middle. So solitude gives you space to feel, and community gives you strength to face. So we need both. You need time with yourself enough to identify the wound and name it, but you also need the courage to re-engage, not to bleed on people, yeah, but to let others help clean up what you started tending to. Healing isn't about pretending the pain never existed, it's about making peace with the fact that it did exist and not letting it own you anymore. So, if we are not running and we are not distracting, what does actual healing look like? Actual healing happens when you react slower. You pause before you snap. You stop obsessing over being okay. You just accept where you are at the moment. You feel emotions without being consumed by them. You get to set boundaries without guilt. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone. You don't avoid conversations. You face them with clarity and not chaos. And sometimes healing looks like crying, but still choosing to show up the next day. So, what are the few ways to begin real healing? So first, you need to acknowledge the pain. You know, Don't downplay it or sugarcoat it. Give yourself permission to feel. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but feelings don't kill, suppression does. You know. So next is to like identify your triggers. What sets you off? What closes you up? You know, that's exactly the sign of where the wound lives. And start where you are. You know, don't wait to feel ready. Actual healing starts in the mess. You also need to be honest with yourself. You know, you should avoid pretending, and you should be ready to ask for help if you need it. You know, therapy, trusted friends, a mentor. Just leaning, basically. It's also quite to create healthy space and not escape routes. Because there's a difference between taking space and disappearing. And finally, you should show up consistently. You know, even if it's just journaling once a week, checking in with yourself, praying, or setting boundaries. And please remember, healing isn't linear. You know, there are days you feel on top of it all, and then there are days when it hits you like you never left. That doesn't mean you're broken. That doesn't mean you're starting from zero. It just means you are human. Healing, you know, has relapses, it has quiet days, and it has loud days. But the fact that you keep showing up, you know, that's is healing. So let me leave you with this. Are you truly healing or just avoiding? Are you sitting with your pain or numbing it? Are you confronting your wounds or just covering them up with productivity, people, or pretense? Because if you say you are healing, let it be real, let it be deep, let it be messy. There's really no rush, there's no timeline, just honesty and consistency. Thank you for holding space with me today. If this episode stirred something in you or just made you breathe a little deeper, please feel free to share it or DM with your thoughts. So, until next time, keep on featuring your art.